Well, this will be a lot of fun. Been doing this show with John Millea for a long time. I've admired his work. And now today we're going to be joined by a former colleague of ours. John, of course, used to work for the Star Tribune, did everything for us. I still work at the Star Tribune. So does Patrick Reusse, who's with us today. So we all used to be on the same staff. And, you know, I love the fact that you two got together because, you know, even though you've had different careers, you've gone different directions, you both have a great appreciation for the human interest story, for the small town story, for the small town human interest story. So what we're going to talk about today in part is the fact that Patrick Reusse, the great columnist from the Star Tribune, went on a road trip with our John Millea. And gentlemen, let's just start right there. Patrick, tell me about it.
Well, I knew that John was entering his last year, and I thought it was from the first day he landed that job, just coincidentally, while we were giving buyouts at the Star Tribune, but that's another story.
That's another story.
I always thought it was a novel task, and then he went from, then all of a sudden you'd see that little vehicle, you'd show up at an outstate event, and John's vehicle with that little drawing of him on the side would be out there. I say the Toyota's been upgraded, by the way. It was a pretty comfortable ride we had down there compared to some of those ones I used to see. But I thought it would make a good column because John's, entering his last year, but and I did not know when I started in on this column idea and then rode with John down there that this was considered to be, at least by the Minnesota State High School League, to be unique in the sense that nobody else was doing this. Other high school leagues around the country, they did not have roving reporters going around telling their stories. So that made it even better, I thought.
Yeah, that's correct, Pat. Since I started almost 15 years ago, a handful of states have basically done the same thing, hired newspaper people. And I know a lot of these people around the country. Everybody does it a little differently. But, it was Dave Stead, like I told you, who was the genius behind this. And he was also the guy who set up the car with Toyota. So, and he was also the guy who hired me and then or was in the process of hiring me, and then another lightning in a bottle came up, and the Strib offered buyouts. What a deal for me!
Yeah, we'll accept your theory that was just a coincidence. You know what I was thinking about, guys? Though when John and I, after we got back, and we had basically a 4-hour BS session surrounding a football game each, and somebody said that should be recorded, and we both agreed there were too many Sid stories that were not complimentary that for that to do that wouldn't have worked well for his
and not complimentary and not suitable for an underage audience.
Public consumption. But you know what I realized, guys, when we're young in this business, and boy, it's a long time ago since I was young, but we're all working nights, and the guys we work with become our eternal friends, the only people we do anything with, because our families, even if we have families, everybody's sleeping when we get home. And, I have lifetime friends from my days in St. Cloud and then my earliest days at the Pioneer Press, because we all work nights together. And now we're still buddies. We still love each other, but we don't see each other like we used to, and we don't work the night shifts together. And it's a different dynamic. And I was realizing that, John's a hell of a guy, but we've never been out to dinner together.
Wow.
With the wife.
Boy, we should both be offended. But you're right about that, Pat. I think of all the guys I worked with on copy desks in Des Moines and Phoenix and here, and I might be the last one standing. Most of them were older than me, and it's just that's a job, man. You're every night, if it's football Friday nights or NFL Sundays or Super Bowls, man, you're under the gun. And the joke was always, on election days, the newsroom would bring in pizza because you were so busy. They could have brought in pizza 4 times a week for the sports desk as much as we, we would.
Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
That's it. That's it. And I can tell people how this journey last Friday night to Kingsland started. It was during the much rain delayed high school baseball state championship games in June, and Pat, you called me, and first you want to know, are we ever going to have these games? And I guaranteed you, I said it might be the 4th of July, but we're going to finish. And we did about a week late at Target Field, and that's when you brought up your idea to jump in the car with me and ride along to some small town. And I kind of pondered, where should I take Pat for a great experience? And I'd never been to Kingsland, but it was a big 9-man game. It was great. It was perfect. I thought about taking you to Becker, where we could eat the best pork chops in the world at the football games. But yeah, this worked out great. I'm really glad you came. And it's proof that Pat Reusse can still write on deadline. He didn't get home till after midnight Friday, and his deadline was noon Saturday. And of course, he got it done. What did you think of the game down there, Pat? I mean, our takeaway, I'm sure our first one was, you asked me as the game was starting, hey, how long do these games take? And me being such a smart guy, I said, probably 2 hours. Well, it only took 3 hours because there were 900 penalties called, and Leroy Ostrander, Lyle Pacelli beat Kingsland 35-26, and we had a great pregame meal. We went out for burgers at Rack's Bar and Grill in Kingsland. We saw somebody we know at the game, Brad Johnson, the former longtime AD at Rushford Peterson. Now he's the high school league's executive secretary for Region 1, a great guy. It was nice to catch up with him. And I think, Pat, we're both from small towns. We talked about that a lot. And even though we haven't lived in small towns for a long time, like Jim said, you like amateur baseball like nobody does. You cover it like nobody does. I love these little towns. Like I told you, when I roll into a town and I see a couple of church steeples and a grain elevator, I know where I'm at. I know where my feet have landed. I'm very familiar with that. And just give us your assessment of the whole atmosphere down in Kingsland and what you thought of the experience.
Well, Jim, I got something to tell you, though.
Yes.
As much as we like bad-mouthing the officials, you can't do that with John Millea from the State High School League around.
I've given it up because of John Millea.
We have a hard time, finding officials now, so we have to appreciate what we get. But imagine my surprise when Shane Hockley was the crew chief, and we had 55 penalties in the first half. But never one to complain about an hour and a 90-minute first half. But you know what? I have not watched much 9-player football. How do you see that, John? The first time I've said 9-player instead of 9.
Very good, sir.
And yeah, I'm learning, but it was great because you know what? When you got 9 players and you got about 11 athletes in your school, they play the whole game.
Oh,
these
baby,
guys,
really ever.
they're out there all the time, and it was good football. It was fun, and this kid from Leroy Ostrander, who's going to go to Leroy Ostrander is going to go to Mankato State. Remind me,
Hungerholt, Cam Hungerholt, big strapping quarterback,
good Irish name from down there in that corner, Hungerholt, and he was a hell of a player. And the other team has three kids from the same family that was adopted down there. That they are fantastic players. So it was a lot of fun. It was good. It was a good game, and it took a little too long, but that's okay.
It did. And we could have driven farther. It could have been worse. So it was okay.
You know what happened, John? Then I went home and watched the Gophers that night and said, boy, I'm sure if I ever have a chance to take my choice between Leroy Ostrander and Kingsland and the Gophers, I'm going for Leroy.
Why not? Why not?
I love it. All right, gentlemen. I wanted to get off to a rambling start, and that wasn't hard to do. I better handle the business of the business here. We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio. This is Preps Today with John Millea. Our guest today, longtime great columnist from the Star Tribune, Patrick Reusse, a longtime colleague of mine, a former colleague of John's. And John, tell us about, I know you didn't get to go there on this trip. Too bad you didn't get to take Patrick to Pizza Barn.
Oh, Pizza Barn in Princeton. They've been sponsoring our show for a long time. It's September, believe it or not. We're waiting word on the September pizza of the month. In the meantime, let's talk about those 2 Pizza Barn food trucks. This will be another busy week. One of them will be at the Glencoe Regional Health in Glencoe on Wednesday from 11 to 2. Then 2 big days at Somerset Amphitheater over in Somerset, Wisconsin on Thursday and Friday for big time concerts. Thursday will be a Luke Bryan concert. You can get those Pizza Barn, everything from the food truck there. And on Friday, a bunch of no-names are performing in Somerset. Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, and John Mellencamp. And there'll be that Pizza Barn food truck will be there. But not to forget the local angle, that same Friday night, the other Pizza Barn food truck will be at Princeton High School for a home football game. So that'll be awesome. Thanks again to our friend Jody Stay, her crew at the Pizza Barn, that they take great care of you. You'll have a meal to remember in a very friendly and comfortable setting. Thank you, Pizza Barn.
Yes, thank you, Pizza Barn. Go ahead, Patrick.
That has to be a great event for Mellencamp. He can be the young guy at that one, isn't it? He's got to say, man, I'm a kid again. Unbelievable.
Exactly.
So all three of us, Patrick grew up in a small town. I cut my teeth covering prep sports, first for a couple small town papers, then for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the Dallas Morning News. That's how I started making my way in the business. John covered everything, ended up choosing to cover preps. There is something when you go to a professional sporting event, when you go to a college revenue sporting event, it's about winning and it's about money. And there's something sweet about just going to a high school game. Patrick, I assume you never lost your taste for that.
No, it's funny. I always say about football, the lower the level, the more I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because although the college game has now surpassed the pro game for me as being a pain, but, because it takes so dang long, the 30-minute half times and all that nonsense, plus the quality of play now that we got 134 teams in Division I and Division whatever the heck it is, FBS. But I, small college football in high schools, I prefer to the NFL because we don't have replays. I like that too. So anyway, but it does. I mean, there's great stories out there, and you stumble in, and John and I show up on the side of the field, and he starts telling me about these three kids that are playing for the home team, Kingsland, that some great family in that town adopted these three kids, and it's there's stories like that all over the place.
And that's a great story. They're the Rylands on the football team. It's Kaleem, Zach, and I think Cody. A couple of them are adopted to a family that already had kids. They've also got a sister. These are African American kids who basically were shuttled around to foster homes and things. Pat Ruff at the Rochester Post-Democrat did an awesome story, real deep dive with great photos from their household of these kids. He did that last fall. It's phenomenal. So I was aware of that. And Kaleem, he's this left-handed quarterback for Kingsland. Holy cow, is he shifty and fast and smart. And that was fun. And I told Pat this, Jim, on the phone after the column was out. I told him Sunday. I said, I didn't know the column had been posted online. I hadn't looked at the paper. Early Sunday morning, I had an email from a retired golf coach. Here's his takeaway from Pat's column about John Millea. Hey, John, you work for the high school league. We have to move high school golf from spring to fall. Can you help me? Who should I talk to? So he'd apparently gone to the high school league website, found John's journal, and my email address is there. Mm-hmm. And hey, there's a guy with the high school league. So I forwarded his email to the proper person. And but boy, if I had any kind of ego, it died right there when I got an email from somebody complaining about how the high school league does business. But hey, that's part of the deal. I knew that going in.
No doubt about it. Hey, before we do more reminiscing, this show is known for its hot takes, and John, you have one.
I do have one. Can I mention one other thing that I know both of you guys are interested in? Mark Craig's Mike Zimmer story. Woo! Pat and I talked about it. Jim, you wrote about it. What do you think, Pat? What do you think of that?
Well, I think when they told Mark when he was out there, I hear this, I didn't hear it from Mark directly, that yes, they can do the interview, but Zim doesn't want to talk about his time with the Vikings. I think he changed I think he changed his mind.
Oh, did he ever?
Craig was the right guy to be there too because
Yep.
he's an old, he's a wily old. I call him the wise old owl. He's a football savant, and Zim realized that when they were up here together, and he poured his guts out. But I'd say I've been at the Strip since '88. I don't think I ever chuckled as much at a story in my life. It was fantastic. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Kellen Mond, yes, it's a mistake not to draft him. I mean, to draft him, but maybe you should say hello once in a while. How's the family doing, Kellen?
Yeah. Oh,
Unbelievable. It was great. It was
yeah.
fantastic.
Fantastic. All right, John, on to your hot take.
Let me jump in here. I got a couple of other football notes here, Jim.
Oh, okay.
I didn't alert you to these. I want to congratulate. Speaking of Becker and pork chops, Dwight Lundeen, the only football coach Becker High School's ever had, he got his 400th career win last week. He ranks second on the all-time list behind Mike Malin from Verndale. Mike got his 433rd. So that's two pretty good people, two pretty good coaches. We had a near record field goal last week. Daniel Jackson from Alexandria kicked a 54-yard field goal against Chaska. That's tied for the third longest. This fact kills me. The longest field goal in Minnesota high school history, 57 yards, by Fabina Klein Schumacher of Climax Fisher in 2003. I think Fabina may have been a foreign exchange student who played soccer. I don't know, but if you'd have told me some kid from Climax Fisher held the record for the longest field goal, I would have said, schools like Climax Fisher have never kicked a field goal, but there it is. And we had a fairly big high school hockey note this week. Bloomington Kennedy announced this upcoming boys hockey season, it's going to be their last one. They don't have enough kids, and they're going to merge over with Bloomington Jefferson. So that's a big, not a great hockey story, but that's going to happen. But now, Jim, to my hot take, I tweeted this yesterday on Monday. My wife and I don't always go to the state fair. Maybe every other year, maybe every third year. We went on Labor Day for the first time. Fabulous weather. But I tweeted my thought that, and I knew this would bring out the banshees. The Minnesota State Fair is overrated. Because we went out there, they have a great system to get people there. We park at the University of Minnesota, right by the football stadium. Park for free. They have buses that are free going on the private road between the Minneapolis campus and the St. Paul campus right next to the fairgrounds. 10-minute bus ride, you're there. And then we get there, and there's 900 million people there. Everybody went out last day, great weather, I get it, but too crowded. It's just on a good day, it's too crowded. We decided when we got home, if we go next year, we're going to wait for the lousiest, hottest, humid, rainiest day. We could not walk around. And, if you get something to eat, good luck finding a place to sit. So, hey, I don't know. I love the state fair, but I think it's overrated. What do you guys think?
Well, last Monday was the day I went, and it was a hot, humid, lousy day, and there wasn't anybody there. So the only misfortune was I damn near died walking back to the bus that I was going to take because I only had 12 minutes to make a 10-minute walk, and I don't hustle too well, so it was not good. But at least there were no people there. But I go back to when it was about. Taking rides and doing all that stuff, letting your kids take rides. Now it's just a food festival. That's all it is.
Yeah, so. That's all. Yeah, you're right.
That's my view, John, is that it really, in my experience, knowing who goes, knowing the people I know who love the fair, it's an excuse to eat whatever crap you want to eat.
Yeah. And we did that. We had burgers and fries. It was fantastic. Stood up and eat it. And then my wife saw Go ahead, Pat.
When the fair went downhill, when they decided a nice 6-inch Pronto pup wasn't good enough. You had to have one that looks like a sword now. That's got,
that's right.
It's about 12 feet long. Eat a regular Pronto pup. Come on, they're better. You're not. It's every time I see somebody with one of those, I say, yeah, I don't like you. You're not my sphere. I don't think. But
That's it.
I mean, I'm a big chubby guy who likes a Pronto Pop, but the 6 inch
Yeah.
is enough. We don't need the
Yeah.
12-footer. By the way,
Here's
I
our,
also saw two 80-year-old grandmas, each in the middle of the day, each walking around with their separate bucket of Sweet Martha's. Are
oh,
you really going to chow down
yeah.
full buckets at that age? You're not going to make it, honey. You're not.
That's,
They were normal-sized human beings. What are you
oh,
doing?
that's another
I don't
thing. As we
know.
were heading for the exit, we walked past the Sweet Martha's cookie thing. I love Sweet Martha's cookies, but I'm not getting in a line that already has 1,000 people in it to get a bucket of cookies. You can find chocolate chip cookies in lots of places. That amazes me. We took the
Yes.
Sky Ride for the first time ever because
Oh,
we
really?
felt too worn out to walk across the fairgrounds to back where we started, and the line in that was probably 40 minutes to take a, I don't know, 6-minute ride to the other side of the fair. But it was in the shade. We didn't mind that.
The
So
greatest.
yeah, and the other disappointment for us, my wife and I, she grew up on a farm. I grew up 6 miles away in town. We like to look at the livestock, but you get there after 3 o'clock on Labor Day, the livestock are gone. They're cleaning the barns. Everything's closed. We saw some horses, but we always go look to we want to see the sheep and the goats and the chickens and the ducks, and we were out of luck. So I guess we learned about Labor Day at the fair.
The greatest genius in the history of the state fair, and this goes back to my childhood when I first started going there about 10, is that slide where they give you a rug.
Yes.
That slide over there, and they get about
Yep.
4 people at a time. That thing has been there for 75 years. They got grandkids who now own islands because of the amount of money they make sliding down there. It takes 20 seconds. Give me another $6. You can go back up there again. It's the greatest thing in history, and they've spent at least $50 in improvements in the last 70 years.
And you can't improve on it. You're not going to.
You can't.
The
Slide down.
technology's
Takes you
perfect.
15 seconds. Go. Come on. The next
You
group's
can't.
coming down.
AI is not going to improve that ride. It's
No,
perfect.
it's not. That's for sure.
There you go.
All right. John, quickly thank a ref, and we'll get back to Patrick.
There you go. I'm going to thank one ref, and Pat's love for amateur baseball is part of this thank a ref segment. So there was a football game Thursday night in Arlington. One of the officials was a fella named Spencer Chirpich. On Saturday, he was the starting pitcher for the Fairmont Martins in a win over Sartell in the Class C tournament at the Mini Met in Jordan. That's a good ref. He's a dedicated high school official, amateur baseball player. That's pretty Minnesotan right there. What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, that's great. And they had 2,200 people at Jordan for the championship game yesterday, and between Waconia and Jordan, which is that ballpark holds about 1,100, and then people sit on the hill and hang on the. I think you've had some state tournament games down there through the years.
We sure have. Yeah, every year we have
at the Mini Met. It's a great ballpark.
Quarterfinals. Either the Mini Met and Chaska. Yeah, before everybody goes to the big ballpark.
They told me,
I love that place.
They told me when I was down there Sunday at noon. Now this is the third weekend, that the concession stand, they had just gone over the 3,000 hamburger mark for the tournament, and with the size of the crowd Saturday and Sunday, they might have got to 4,000 burgers
and probably 9,000 beers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the beers. You know why beer is such a great thing for the baseball tournament? No labor costs. All you do is just hand them a beer, right?
There you go. There you go.
You don't have to fix
that's
anything.
easy.
You just got to hand them a beer.
Yep. And I should point out, when we have high school games there, beer is not available.
No, that's not. That's not. Although isn't it funny, Jim, how selling alcohol is supposed to be the savior of college athletics now? It's unbelievable. Everybody well, what they got to do. North Dakota State was having trouble drawing people, so they started selling beer, and it hasn't helped. But they decided that they needed alcohol to improve attendance.
Go figure.
Hey,
Yeah, that's all I have, boys. That's all I had in my list. I just can't thank you enough for taking the time, and that was a night I'll never forget.
Yeah, it was a good time. And you know what? That thunderstorm we had last Thursday,
Yeah.
we thought that the whole city was going to get blown away, but it's the greatest event in the history of Minnesota. Since then, we've had 5 beautiful days of no humidity and sun
that's
and
it.
coolness. Just if we can just survive one of those once in a while, we'll have a nice fall. So
There you go.
great.
Like I told you, I had planned to go to a football game that Thursday night. I ended up going down to my Iowa hometown for a wake for a buddy of mine who passed away. And I'm sitting there talking to one of my uncles and another guy who walks in the funeral home. And of course, they're talking about the weather. And it was raining hard at that point. And one of the greatest phrases in the English language was mentioned. Well, the front's going to be coming through any time now.
That's when you go to the walleye opener, and they're telling you how great the fishing's going to be, and then on Saturday you catch one little minnow, and they say, the front came through. That's what they know. The front always comes through 10 minutes before you put your hook in it. But
the front is
Jim,
either
I
good
got
or
to
bad.
tell you this.
Yeah.
I thought my old man, the Undertaker from Fulda, was the greatest agitator of all time. But then Millea started telling me about his barber father down in this little town in northern Iowa. And he could have given my old man a run for it as far as agitation was concerned. I mean, putting up a phony signed photo of Jesse Jackson in his barber shop in northern Iowa.
Yeah.
Now, Iowa wasn't quite the place it is now as far as politically then, but still, there had to be some guys in bib overalls that came in there that weren't Jesse Jackson fans. That's for sure.
That's it. So. Yeah. Jim, the story is, I told Pat this. My dad was a lifelong Democrat, and whenever in the 70s Jesse Jackson ran for president, he was in the county. He was in Emmitsburg, Iowa, in the county for an appearance. My dad managed to get a Polaroid photo of him and Jesse standing arm in arm. And Jesse didn't know, this is another guy he's just shaking hands with. So my dad takes the Polaroid and basically forges a message from Jesse to my good friend Tom, your buddy, Jesse Jackson, and sticks it up on the bulletin board in his little one-chair barber shop on Main Street. And oh boy, he knew what was going to happen. He knew how to rattle cages. He said things like that. I might have lost a couple of customers, but it's worth it.
That's fantastic.
The laughs are worth it. The laughs.
Oh man, yeah, he was. I told Pat every time I hear Pat tell a story about his dad, I think of my old man doing stuff like that just to shake everybody up.
Hey, let's. I think Pat gave us. No, go ahead, Pat.
The difference is, if you're a small town undertaker, 40 funerals is a good year, right?
Yeah.
So you pick them up and embalm them one day, you wake them one day, and you bury them the next day. 3 times 40 is 120. So you got 240 days to poach and raise hell and think up stuff to agitate people. And that's my old man. He had too much free time. That was his problem.
When I think of your story about your dad getting a deer, strapping it to the top of the car and painting the nose red, which is one of the classics, and driving around town so all the kids could see.
He even had to stop and get bells to put around its neck. Then he stopped at one of his drinking buddies, Kenny Malone, over here in North Minneapolis, had a funeral home over there, and they were big buddies and had a bunch of little kids. And the old man called the kids out and showed them that there's going to be no Christmas because they shot Rudolph, and the mother was not happy.
Oh no! And my dad was not a hunter, but if my dad had been a deer hunter, he would have done the exact same thing just to see the reaction. And my mom would have been a little upset with him. But no, that's great. Those stories are awesome.
Well, I think Patrick already gave us our kicker for this show. The laughs are worth it.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Beautiful.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we got to see more of each other. We didn't. We never worked nights together. That's our
That's
problem.
right.
We only see each other at ball games, but we never really got in there and and then ran across the street to drink and all that stuff
That's right.
when you used to work the desk half the times and stuff
You
like
bet.
that. So anyway, it was a good
Yep.
time had by all that night, Johnny.
Sure was, Pat. I can't thank you enough. That was a blast.
All
Patrick, great
righty.
stuff. Thanks for the column. Thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it. Yeah, we'll have to do this again sometime, maybe in person.
All right. See you.
See you.